talk about. Now, Herodotus says in Herodotus Book 2, he said that the ancient Egyptians had burnt skin, flat noses, thick lips, and woolly hair. This is how he described them. As I talked about, what Diodorus said, the only way you could tell them apart sometimes is by the hair, but they basically, dark skin. Now, Diodorus also said that he said the name Nile seems connected with the Indian term Nihilus black. Again, we're going to keep finding this connection between the Egyptians and India. This is a huge thing a lot of people don't understand. Now, one of the reasons why people don't understand because it has been so well covered up for a huge reason. Now, the thing is, when they went into the tomb of Ramses III, they found his maps and they found his notes. Now, on his maps, he had India marked as Egyptian territory. Now, one of the ways we can prove this is you got to understand, one, remember you had Alexander the Great, Alexander the Greek, or what have you. Remember, they invaded Kemet, took it back from the Persians, took it from the Persians. Now, remember how Alexander died. How did he die? He died in Iraq, in Mesopotamia. Remember, he died in Mesopotamia on his way back from where? India. What was he doing in India? Why was he in India? Why was he on his way back from India to Mesopotamia? And this is why you got to understand, one, when they conquered the Egyptian land, you had to conquer in India and set up there because India was a part of their territory, just like Israel. Plain and simple. Remember, they took Israel first. So again, when they leaving this history out, but you can kind of sort of piece it together if you're a real scholar, if you're really doing research. It's like right in your face. It's like almost like a back door into all this information, but you got to look in the right places. They're not talking about it for a huge reason because they're trying to steal Buddhism. And we're going to get into this. They're trying to steal a lot of history. They're trying to cover up what they did. And they can't because the history is there and so many people wrote about it. Herodotus and Diodorus, they still want to give big ups to their scholars and researchers and what have you. But, them two alone poke a lot of holes in, the story, which really is not no official story from the Europeans. They just don't talk about shit. To hide it, they just don't talk about it. They don't teach, they don't talk, they don't say nothing. Since they own mainstream media, and they're not going to put it on mainstream media, it is left up to speculation. It's left up to the imagination for people to wonder and ponder, did this stuff really happen? But when you go based upon proven facts in history, you see clearly this is basically what took place. That it's a huge connection between ancient Kemet and India and that whole Indus Valley and everything that was taking place there. And it's something that happened that they were trying to cover up. Now, one of the things that's going to really bother you and really, really stick out to you is, why? Why would these people, let their ancestors go to hell like that? Why would you disrespect your ancestors, the people who are the reason for you having your civilization? And it's one of the things that I really just scratch my head so much. It's like, wow, all across the board. You look at in India, you look at Pakistan and everything like that. If you're dark skinned, you're put down. All the way across. You have in Asia, you have the Chinese or what have you, walking around with umbrellas because they don't want to get tan because dark skin is so looked down. It's all around the world. You have people in the Dominican Republic hanging Haitians for being dark skinned when they dark skinned as well. I talked about this before. And it's like, wow, what is it? And you got to understand the psychological hold they have on people and, what took place and what they did to make sure that this dark skin was looked at completely different and not godlike in no way as a handicap. And they made sure they did this. It's the only way. And you got to understand why, the ruling class, the people who ruled, what happened. They sold out. Why would they allow this to happen? Your ancestors is everything. The past is everything. And when you understand that, it's because of the past that we have the present. And while we'll have our future, the past must be preserved and must be, paid homage to, and people must really, really understand what took place during that time. So to get rid of all this stuff, this is what really bad for me because I'm like, What the fuck? Why was they literally paint the faces white on these Buddhas when clearly when you go towards the ancient ruins, black skin, black faces, and it's so much craziness that's been taking place. Now the thing is, what does this have to do with Buddhism? What does it have to do with Buddha or what have you? Now the problem is this: when you look up when did Buddhism start, it says clearly here 5th century BCE, as I highlighted. Now, when you look at when did Hinduism start, it says 1500 BC. Hinduism starting before Buddhism. Now, Hinduism developed from the religion that the Aryans brought to India with them in about 1500 BCE. That's all I'm going to read. Hinduism developed from the religion that the Aryans, had to highlight it, brought to India with them in about 1500 BCE. Now, understand what Siddhartha was a Hindu, and Siddhartha, created Buddhism, Buddha, what have you. So, of course, Hinduism would be before Buddhism because Siddhartha was a Hindu prince. So that part makes sense. The part that sticks out, of course, as you know, Aryans. What do you mean Aryans brought, Hinduism into India? And the thing is, yeah, we're talking about the same Aryans, white people, the same white race. How Hitler and all that stuff, what it was all about, Aryan race, white people. But you had the Aryans come down from the north and start to take over. They settled first in North India, right close to Tibet. And you got to understand how crafty these people was. They had an agenda. And the agenda was clear as day. To basically, at first, you sprinkle in white people here and there. Sprinkle in Aryans. Their goal was to go throughout every civilization around the world and interbreed. Plain and simple, that was the goal. To mix. To go in, mix in with everybody, and then try to, develop their race more. Now you have white person married to Indian person, and then if this person was from a prominent house, they can move up, or their children could be the heir, or what have you. So their goal was to basically interbreed and to try to get into positions of power, to breed into positions of power. And this is what they did. The Huns caught on to it. You start getting over to China, Cambodia, and stuff like that. Mongolia, they caught on. Japanese, they caught on. They kicked the white people out. They kicked the Aryans out. They had a plan. Come out, interbreed, mix in, phase one. Now, once they got into positions of power, got the layout, and understand what was going on, to basically invade and take over, and that's exactly what they did. Now, when you pay attention, this has been the MO of Aryan people, of white people for a long time. Again, we know with slavery. Same thing they did. See, again, we were stuck on slavery. We ain't look back and see that, wait a minute, they did this before to us. Came in all nice, basically settled in, then took over. They did the same thing with slavery. They came in, this time they had religion. And they came in with religion peacefully. And then set up shop, learned the layout, and then took over, these Aryans. Now remember, the Andaman, understanding what took place. Now you understand when I talked about this before, I showed you the pictures and everything about how no white people can go anywhere near Andaman land. Can't go there. They will kill you. They ain't taking nothing from the white man. They not playing because they understand the past and they pass it down. You have civilizations on this planet still living like they lived 2,000 years ago. No TV, no electricity. They don't even understand what we understand. They live in truly spiritual, and for the most part, a lot of them are left alone because most of them are in areas now that has no real resources that they can use, as far as like oil or, plutonium or what have you, stuff like that. They don't have that kind of stuff. Uranium, I meant to say. They don't have that kind of stuff. They don't have, like the minerals and stuff like that, but they have food. They have what they need to survive. So you got to understand, the Aryans, and you got to understand why, that name was changed. And a lot of people, we don't refer to them as Aryans. We just say Europeans, but really Aryans is what they're supposed to be called. Now, again, make sure we're talking about the same people here. When you look up Aryans, Aryan, it says, relating to or denoting a people speaking an Indo-European language who invaded northern India in the 2nd millennium BC, displacing the Dravidian and other Aboriginal people. Telling you clear as day. Yeah, they came in there, basically took over. These Indo-Europeans. What is an Indo-European? Let's look. It says, the Indo-European languages have a large number of branches: Anatolian, Indo-Iranian, Greek, Italic, Celtic, Germanic, Armenian, Tocharian, Balto-Slavic, and Albanian. I guess they wanted to put Indo-Iranian there, to sound exotic, but you have Proto-Indo-Iranian, which basically means common Aryan, plain and simple. It's all the same people when you look at it. We're talking about Europeans, white people, that basically came in, telling you clear as day, they came in and took over. And we got to understand the change that happened once they took over, because it's not something that you're going to really read too much about in school. You're just not going to talk about the stuff. But it makes a big difference when you try to understand what took place over there in, the Far East, what happened in so-called Middle East and West Africa. It's a lot of stuff that was going on in that area during this time, all going back to the Aryans. Now, the thing is, if you say that, Hinduism was basically brought in by the Aryans, by doing that, not only can you take control and responsibility for the Hindu religion, the Hindu faith, because, Siddhartha was a Hindu, a Hindu prince. You can also take control of Buddhism. You can take control of both religions by saying, no, we came in and we set up Hinduism in northern India, and by default, Buddhism is ours as well. Now, here's the thing, and some of y'all smart enough to understand this. One, think about the time period. We're talking about 1500 BCE. When you understand the nature of Buddhism and what it's talking about on a spiritual level, what it's really getting into. If the Aryans came into North India with that information, with that knowledge already in 1500 BCE, there is no way they would need to come into Egypt for any knowledge. They wouldn't need it. They would know it already. The Greeks talk about, Herodotus and Thales, Diodorus, all of these Greek scholars and Greek philosophers. Everybody came into Kemet to learn. If they had that knowledge already and brought it into northern India, we wouldn't be talking about what we're talking about now. They would have never needed Kemet. Because when you break down the Buddhist faith, which we're going to get into it and break it down, it is basically talking about what the Egyptians talked about. Plain and simple. It's just switched up into different gods, different stories, talking about the same exact stuff. Plain and simple. And if they understood that and it was the ones who brought it there, clear outright lie you just saw on Wikipedia, Google, or what have you, if they brought it there, they wouldn't need to come into Kemet or learn or to know anything. They would have had the knowledge. So again, this is how they trying to take over and say that they had this knowledge, they came in there, they understood this stuff, when clearly there's no way they could have really understood it. What you had happen was these people came in, they set up, they took over, and then you have, for a period of time, war. Everybody who's white, of course, they had to flee the country, but the damage was already done. They still left, mixed race people in there, lighter people, lighter skinned people. And all this does is cause division once you make it cause division. Before, we looking at it as Africans, okay, he's light, so what? I'm dark skinned, my son's mom is dark skinned, we're both really dark. He's light brown, so, it doesn't matter. That's how we have kids. So different skin tones. Until you make it about skin color, which is what they did eventually. But, once they have control of the government and the system, and then they leave and people think, okay, well, we got to worry about these people coming back. So again, you can set up policies and rules, and you can be like, well, something is wrong with the dark-skinned people. They are evil. The light-skinned people tend to do things better. These dark-skinned people from the ancient times, they only know the ancient ways. They are evil, da-da-da. And they can make up whatever kind of situation that they want to control the people. And this is basically what took place and what they did. So what you will have is, order out of chaos. once they have control of the government, they can come in and offer a solution to the problem that they created. So now the people who are left after this tragedy or war, what have you, they're sitting around thinking that, okay, our government is going to do what's in the best interest of the people. And then that never happens. And they can never figure out why it seems like the government is going away from the people. And they don't realize that their government and their government officials and all their leaders have basically been taken over, and they are now under control of the same enemy they just got finished fighting. So now we got to think back to Adolf Hitler. And then you got to start understanding what's the whole Aryan thing about. And everybody heard, white power, Aryan race, everything. But a lot of people didn't understand the history. Aryans, what is that? And people, they didn't know. They couldn't fathom that it's an ancient history that Hitler is talking about. One, he used the swastika. And a lot of people didn't understand what it was. When you look at the swastika clockwise, it's talking about the sun. It means the sun. This is an ancient symbol. Ancient Hindu symbol. Plain and simple, he used. Remember, they invaded northern India. It's an ancient Indian symbol. Clockwise is talking about the sun. Counterclockwise is talking about Kali. And we know Kali is the goddess, the black goddess of time, creation, destruction, and power. The black goddess of time, creation, destruction, power. Plain and simple. This is what they are using with the swastika. And you got to understand the meaning behind it. And one, we can see clear as day. It's going back into India. So now you have the connection fitting. It fits. It fits. You have the Aryans with Hitler, talking about the Aryan race. And then you have the connection with India. And people who knew their history back then can clearly make that connection. I know the people in India, they were shivering. They was probably scared as hell when they started hearing about Hitler and see what he was doing and seeing how, powerful he became, in his rise. And, it was a big deal. So then, what was Hitler really all about? He was about the master race, the Aryans, the pure white Aryans, so-called pure white. And maybe Hitler didn't know, maybe Hitler knew something that we don't know. But you got to think about that.